Thank you for joining us for PrepXtra Live post-game show after, what is this now, week 2?
This is week 2. It's really week 3, but we call it week 2.
We played 3 weeks, week 0, week 1, week 2. I'm Aram Talegian, joined on my right by Fred J. Robledo, and on my left, Steve Ramirez. Guys, kind of an interesting night, all across the area. You had some teams that were really stepping up, and at least one of them gave it a good shot, and then others didn't do so hot. And then you had some other games where we were trying to find out, if certain 2-0, 1-0 teams were very legit, and I guess that's a great place to start tonight, Freddie. Diamond Bar gets the win over San Dimas. This is obviously, it was 18-7 final,
right.
so I think they were down 7-0, if I'm not mistaken, and they rattle off the last 18 points.
Yeah, they got a couple fumble recoveries in that game, but what I took away from it, and I was looking at Guillermo Tovar's tweets. He's the one who covered the game for us tonight. Great job defensively, and this is what this team has been doing the first 2 weeks, holding teams down to, I think, single digits and maybe just a couple of touchdowns. They've been very, very stingy defensively. And to hold a team like San Dimas, who really had their way with Maranatha last week, and when you think back to last year, how bad San Dimas rolled Diamond Bar for the first 2 weeks. We talked about this in the 2-minute drill, Aram. The coach that they have from New York, who's come in here and instilled some toughness in those Diamond Bar kids. One thing about Diamond Bar, even in the last few years before this, when Ryan Main was a coach, and there were a lot of expectations, they could score points. But what you didn't see is that toughness on defense.
Not on defense,
and you're starting to see that now. They can play defense and score some points the way they are. They're going to be a very, very tough out when we get going. I mean, a really big win for them.
Well, you really think that? So as far as Palomares League is concerned, I know they're 3-0 right now, but, I think Claremont's unbeaten. You saw them last night. Bonita's unbeaten. Glendora's unbeaten.
I watched Claremont yesterday against Covina, a game they very easily could have lost if Covina doesn't cough up the football.
But what are you saying? Diamond Bar's on that level?
I think they're right in there. I mean, you're looking at. Those teams aren't unbeatable in that division. And I think San Dimas is a good team who can play with a lot of the same teams in the Palomares League. So I don't know. I mean, they're a team you definitely have to keep your eye on.
You're not worried at all about San Dimas after this one tonight, Freddie? I mean, last week they get that nice win over Maranatha to start the season, and really what it starts is the Mark Holman era, and now they come out and they relatively speaking get skunked by a team that they had an easy time with. I mean, you a little worried about San Dimas now, or no?
I don't know.
New coach,
I'm worried about them for what? To win a CIF championship? To win the Valley Vista
because
League title? I didn't think
they
were
lost
the favorites.
Zernico. No,
anyway.
You didn't think they were the favorites, in the game tonight? Or?
To win the I predicted Diamond Bar was going to win this game. I just had that feeling.
So you're in the game, but I know what you're saying. Also not the division. Yeah. But what I'm saying is they have a new coach, and we know Zernico meant a lot. Do you start to worry now that we're going to see just how much Zernico meant? Or is San Dimas going to be just fine?
And I took a lot of heat for even bringing Zernico's name up on the blog last week in his
Why?
stories. I don't know. There's you can look at my Twitter feed. Some people were
What'd
let it go, or
let what go?
Someone said, do you have to bring up Coach Z? In every story that you write, he's already a ghost. I'm like, it's the first game without him. I think you mentioned his guy's name.
I do too.
I think that's how some fans or followers of certain.
I know they want to turn the corner.
They like to move on. I mean, I've gotten some letters when I've mentioned an old coach who had success over the new
it's an extremely hard thing to do, to take over for a coach who's had a lot of success like Coach Zernico has. It's not easy. He's built a foundation. He's built a tradition there that you have to live up to, which San Dimas never had in the past. I mean, Zernico planted that seed.
Exactly
and now you've got to live up to it.
1-2 CIF titles.
Yeah, and but San Dimas has started poorly. Even in the Zernico years, they've had some tough non-league games, but of course they were playing Monrovias and some of these other teams when it happened. But hey, look, Diamond Bar might be a real deal, and we may look back on this game 3 or 4 weeks from now and saying that wasn't a bad loss. and Diamond Bar's legit.
Kind of surprising because you thought, Hughes stepped into a good situation last year with having Noodles Hull available, for the whole year. And Noodles had a great, great year, but the team didn't. They didn't win a game in league. And now you thought, well, with no Noodles, they didn't win a game in league last year. Okay, this team's in trouble. And now it looks like, they've actually really gotten better.
It tells you this is a coach, Steve,
who we're talking Marcus Hughes here.
Who knows how to coach him up. I mean, he has that track record if you look at his past. And he's had 1 year with the program. They don't have a lot of star-studded names. But I go back. His teams, when I was reading about him when he got hired, his teams play really, really tough defense. And you're seeing that right now. This is 3 straight weeks where they haven't given up a lot of points. And one is against a San Dimas team that just rolled Maranatha and, has the ability, we've seen in the past, San Dimas, the way they play to roll up a lot of points on teams. And they did it to Diamond Bar last year. So big win, big confidence win for that program. And I was posting the scores, and the retweets were just all over the place. They're pretty excited over there.
Yeah, they should be. Diamond Bar 3-0. It's been a while since.
And sometimes it takes a year for the players in the program to get adjusted to whatever scheme they're teaching from the new coaching staff.
Right. We mentioned at the top of the show 2 area teams, 2 teams that we covered were taking on some pretty big time opponents, at least as far as in the Whittier area is concerned. And tonight, one of the games Stevie was at was La Habra. They go down to Mission Viejo. Was it 17-14?
No, 24-14.
24-14. Okay. Yeah. Stevie, what can you tell us about this game? I know La Habra people are feeling pretty good despite the loss.
Yeah, I mean that's what I thought Mission Viejo is one of the top teams in Southern Cal, and to be in a game, and it was a very competitive game throughout. That's what I wrote. That it's kind of a moral victory. But both Coach Frank Mazzata and their quarterback, Eric Barrier, I think is how you pronounce it, they were a little disappointed because they felt they had chances to win the game, and they had 4 turnovers. They scored on their first drive to begin the game, got 7-0, got a fumble on the Mission Viejo side of the field, and their drive stalled about the 26. Then after it was tied, they had a chance to take the lead, but they threw an interception near the end of the second quarter, and were down 10-7 at halftime, and then gave up an 80-yard touchdown pass on the first play of the second half, but then were able to drive down and make it a game again and cut it to 3, but they could never get anything going after that, and then they gave up a pick 6 with about 2.5 minutes left. Well, that was the game.
The good sign here, though, even though it's a loss, is that their defense didn't get lit up. Now, last year, defense is what kept La Habra, and probably the last couple of years, what kept La Habra from, reaching La Habra-type levels. This year, the defense had looked very solid through the first 2 weeks, but we hadn't seen them play legit competition. Mission Viejo, super legit. They held them to 24 points. Great sign for La Habra going forward.
And really just 17 points when you consider that 7 of those are on the pick 6.
Right, okay, so 17 points.
Yeah, but I was really impressed with La Habra's defense. They kept La Habra in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a couple times where Mission Viejo had a chance to extend the lead, and they got some big sacks, and they, from what I saw tonight, this team is a legitimate contender for the Southwest.
And Steve used the term moral victory, and coaches don't like to use the words moral victory, but in this case, it applies because this is a non-league game. This was a measuring stick, and when you could step up in class, and I don't even know if this is a step up in class for La Habra because they're used to big games like this, but when you can play with those teams and go back and forth, that tells you a lot about your football team. Big difference between that and what you saw with La Mirada again. After the big win at Charter Oak, he's saying, let's try this again, see if we can get it right. And Steve, you can deliver the news there.
Yeah, it was 42-7 at Mater Dei, and I'm getting to the point where I get what Coach Machetti's trying to do. He feels he's put together a pretty good program, and he wants to take on. Just any team, that's a top team in SoCal, right? And I'm just not sure.
But it's tough because when the games are, you look at La Habra. I mean, those are competitive games. Yeah. When the games aren't close, does it really benefit you? Does it?
But how much does it help? La Habra's had success.
Yeah.
They've won CIF titles. They've won 6 CIF titles since 2002. I mean. So
what does someone like La Mirada need to do, Aaron? Do they need to stay away from that Division One? I mean, should they be scheduling Rancho Cucamongas in the Uplands?
Yeah. Okay.
And maybe
let's put this in perspective because you say La Habra's had success, and that's true. I know La Mirada won a CIF title in 2009. However, these recent years where La Mirada played La Habra, those games weren't close. La Mirada was winning those games, and then to answer Freddie's question. Machete has stepped up and played Tesoro, and last year they beat Tesoro. That's a D2 school. So you're thinking to yourself, we're ready to step up probably a little further, maybe, okay? Yeah. But there's a huge gap between stepping up further and playing Mater Dei and St. John Bosco.
You want to play a Pac-5 team take on Long Beach Jordan.
Right. Exactly. Well, you're exactly right because it's an interesting thing because tonight St. Francis beat Moore Park. Now, Moore Park's a Pac-5 team. Now, that's a little more like it. St. Francis is a Southeast Division team. Same with La Mirada. They're both Southeast Division teams. Both of them played Pac-5 opponents tonight. One of them played Moore Park. One of them played Mater Dei.
But there's a big difference between those Pac-5 teams, and you're right. Play the lower end of those Pac-5 teams.
Right.
Maybe not go after the Giants right away.
Well, play like a Crespi, someone who...
Do you think Crespi would be a better game for them than Mater Dei?
It's interesting philosophies. Look, I mean, Bishop Amat beat Colony tonight, 59-12. And I talked to Coach Randall with Colony earlier in the week, talked about playing this game. And he said, we really didn't play it for this year, for the score. It's really for our players to be in that atmosphere, to see what big-time football is all about. He says, that's the level that we're aspiring to get to. And I don't think you can get to it without seeing what it's like and feeling what it's like to go up against it. And part of that is taking your poundings like they did tonight. They took a pounding. They lost 42-0 last week when they played Alamany. So they've taken 2 back-to-back butt whippings.
Colony.
They're a CIF championship. They know they're going to get back in their league. They know they're going to get in the playoff division and be okay. This is a team that I think beat West Covina, right, in the first week. So they know that when they get in to their like teams and their playoff divisions, they're going to be okay. But I'm not sure these spankings are that good for your psyche. I'm really not.
I tell you what, it just blows my mind. These gaps between first of all, this gap that might be there between Centennial and Bosco, and then the Bishop Amat's, Mater Dei's, Sarah's, and Long Beach Poly's. But then the gap from the Bishop Amat's and the Mater Dei's and the Long Beach Poly's down to a Colony.
Yeah,
it's huge. Yeah. I mean, you would think, okay, hey, we're not playing Bosco, we're playing Amat, or we're playing Long Beach Poly. This should be better for us, and it's not. Right. You get your butt kicked the same way. I just can't believe that gap is so wide, but it is. Yeah. However, like we said tonight, St. Francis was able to beat. And St. Francis was almost a Pac-5 team, according to the redivisioning last year, but we won't get into that. St. Francis was able to beat Moore Park tonight, 29-23 in a throw, and that's a great win for St. Francis, Freddie, because this was a team that had a lot of people to replace. Last week, they got the win over West Covina. It was a competitive first half. They pulled away from the Bulldogs, and now they beat Moore Park, which was, by all rights, a better team than West Covina, or I should say a bigger test than West Covina. St. Francis passes that. Coming up later, I'm not sure exactly when in the non-league for them. I think next week might be Monrovia. We'll get to that in a second, but they're going to play that Calabasas team that's got Keyshawn Johnson's son and Darnay Holmes, who's St. Francis. For us, though, it's not any good because I think it's on the road. So that'll be an LA Daily News special, but that'll be really interesting to see them play that Calabasas team.
That's after the Monrovia game?
I think Monrovia is next week. I can tell you.
They play Monrovia next week.
Well, I'm not sure anybody, you three or whoever, is going to want to be at that game. Now, Monrovia got the win tonight over Arcadia, and that was the game that I was at.
The reason we're starting, it's 11:30. It took you 3 hours to get here tonight. We were all waiting on you.
Right, yeah.
Was there a big injury or something?
No, there wasn't a big injury. There was just, it was kind of funny. I was remarking to people on the sidelines, for as much as these spread offenses and these wide open sets have sped up the game. They haven't sped up the clock. And, in fact, they actually do the opposite. Like, you go cover a San Marino game, you're there till, like, midnight. I mean, you just, no time goes off the clock when these teams have the ball. They might have a drive that takes 13 seconds off the clock. It's sick. And that's what happened tonight. Halftime was at 9 o'clock, Freddie. And the halftime score was...
And there are some games finishing at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right.
Game finished about
like a Damien game or something. Yeah, right. So 32-30 at halftime, Monrovia is winning. Arcadia led for most of the first half. Monrovia got, a little spurt there in the second quarter, and then in the third quarter, Monrovia just started relying on their running back, Lawrence Spicer, and I think he's probably going to be our boys' athlete of the week, at least from this side of town next week, because he had 6 touchdowns tonight. Wow. He had a heck of a performance, but still, Arcadia was getting, I don't want to say they were this close to maybe, getting a win, a much-needed win in this series. The score was 51-45 with just about 4 minutes and change left.
What was the final score?
60-45. 51-45. Arcadia has the ball at the Monrovia 5 or 10 yard line. They roll out, they throw the ball, and this kid named John McKee from Monrovia steps in front of the receiver at the 5 yard line, picks off the pass. He returns it 5 yards to the 10 yard line. And, Arcadia just feels like they missed their opportunity to take the lead late in the game. And on the very next play, Spicer up the middle, 90 yards, touchdown, basically game over. Yeah. There you have it. But Monrovia, if they can't stop Arcadia, and keep in mind Arcadia has a nice offense. This receiver, Rashawn Rowland, this QB, Nico Hillier, really nice players. If Monrovia can't stop that, what are they going to do against San Marino? What are they going to do against San Marino?
I worry about teams that give up a lot of points, and they gave up a lot of points to Burroughs. It was Burroughs in the first week, right? The game that they Burbank. I'm sorry, that they actually got that's a forfeit win now. But they gave up a lot of points. Bonita was able to put a lot of points on them, and now Arcadia. That's not a good sign, because you can't expect to beat a lot of good teams in shootouts. And when I put this up, when you look at what San Marino did tonight, I know San Marino's playing some really. You talk about a cupcake schedule this far; they're playing it, but you've got to think that this is San Marino's Rio Hondo League to lose now.
Monrovia might be able to score on them like they usually do, and they may be able to pound Spicer and get their points that way. But my goodness, man, the way San Marino's playing, it's looking there might be like at least a 1-year changing of the guard in that league. But we'll get to that obviously once league play starts. Switching gears a little bit here.
Charter Oak and Damien.
Yeah, Charter Oak tonight. I saw the tweet go out late. It looked like the second half that Dylan Thigpen, the good running back from Damien, got hurt and left the game. And that seemed to coincide with Charter Oak going on a massive run.
It was a back and forth game up into that point. I think we got a call. Keith Lair.
Yes. Just
breaking news?
Sort of, yes.
Go ahead. This is Keith Lair. People, go ahead.
The Pomona, California game.
Yeah.
Pomona
43-41 Pomona.
Yes, but here's what happened.
Okay, Keith Lair's going to tell us what happened.
Explain this one, Keith.
California's leading 40 to 34, and Pomona Lockett throws a 46-yard touchdown pass with 28 seconds to play.
Okay.
So it's 41. Game.
So it's 41-40. They go for 2. They don't make it. So Pomona onside kicks it, and they get the ball. Lockett throws a 30-yard pass down to the 6.
Wow.
They don't have any timeouts left. Lockett spikes the ball. They send in their field goal crew, and he kicks a 28-yarder with 4 seconds to go for 43-41.
Wow.
There's a game of the night.
Yeah, that was a game of the night.
Thank you, Keith.
Only in high school. Keith Lair, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow, there's another player of the week candidate. Lockett. What a way to lead a team back.
Wow.
They missed a 2-point conversion.
I thought the Chino Hills kid was the QB. I thought they had moved Lockett to receiver or slot or running back.
You're at Pomona. You athletes are athletes.
Well, I guess Lockett's back at QB.
You play him where you need him.
Anyway, so
that's a big win.
Yeah, it's a big win, and good for Cal for giving them that kind of game. But as you were saying, Damien, Charter Oak back and forth until Thigpen gets hurt.
Yeah, no, it was, and you're right. I wasn't at the game obviously, but it seemed like I remember Tommy Kiss sent that tweet out, And after that, it just seemed like Charter Oak went on that big run. They started extending it, and it just got away from them.
Yeah, so good for Charter Oak. They bounced back from the La Mirada loss. They're now 2-1.
What does it say about, Damien for a second? We've gone through this now for a few years where we thought, Gano's going to come in.
I know why you're going to say
and
this.
he's going to win I mean, it's something to talk about.
Well,
really. I mean, why can't they turn the corner and win these games? I mean, you've got a great look at Mark Paredes. Is a great coach whose reputation, you don't need. He is who he is. He's won championships. He's proven. Coach Gano going in there before, he was proven.
Well,
why can't this
it goes
program
further back than that? I mean, when Pascarella took over, I thought, because the success he had at Covina and Ayala, I thought.
But he had more success at Damien.
Yes, that's true.
Than Gano and
you're forgetting about Scott Morrison.
Scott Morrison might have had more success than any of them.
He absolutely did. That's what I was going to tell you. I mean,
he's the one that they ran out of town.
Right? Yeah, but back then Scott Morrison had Ian Johnson at running back for one of those years. They had Mark Mendrin at quarterback. Travis Ashardes, the late Travis Ashardes, rest his soul. He was a stud all area receivers. Him and Mendrin were just unstoppable as a QB receiver combo. Those were better teams than what you have now, than what you had under Gano and what you're having under Paredes. Paredes, they've said it's a slow, steady kind of grind, but it's funny because the remnants from the Gano era always ask me, hey, why aren't they doing any better than we did? Isn't it kind of funny that it's still about the same? They thought they were going to get rid of us and get better and take this big step forward with Paredes. And that hasn't happened.
Yeah, I'm just.
You got to get players in there, Freddie. Any way you slice it. Gano was doing that, but he was taking a lot of heat doing it. You got to get transfers into that program. It's just not, especially in the baseline league, going to happen for them with what they, usually. I hate to say it. I mean, they got to go out and do what a lot of the other private schools do.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder if it's as simple as that they don't hand out financial assistance or enough of it compared to other schools because they sit. I mean, Damien's a great school. You sit in Laverne. You're the only real private school that. When you look at the Inland Empire,
right.
What other private school out there is? I mean, they're the closest one.
Well, think of what they could
all
draw.
That talent that's right there.
You say just right there, Pomona. Think of what they could draw from that Pomona area.
Yeah.
If they got the best from Pomona to go, best 10 guys from Pomona to go to Damien, they'd have, right there some of the best skill talent around.
I look at some of these neighboring. I mean, you look at what St. Francis is doing, what Bishop Amat is doing.
But here's the thing, Freddie.
They've got to take that step, and they haven't been able to take it.
Glendora's doing well. San Dimas is doing well. Bonita's doing well. When those things are happening, odds are Damien's not going to do well because those kids see no reason to leave. You think Matt Fink, wanted to go to an all-boys school and play at Damien? No, I mean
that could be another
a Glendora kid.
But Servite's an all-boys school, and they don't seem to have a problem.
It's back when Amat was kind of
not sure I agree.
Down. Los Altos and Wilson were up, and in some of the other schools in this area where they used to draw from.
Hey man, what's going on here? We're like 15, 20, 25 minutes into the show. We haven't even mentioned Bishop Amat. Yeah, Bishop. Oh, maybe we did. I guess we talked about Colony
getting worse. Bishop Amat played everybody tonight. I mean, that's one of those things they blew.
Even Toriano Sweet.
Toriano Sweet played
Scout team
the
running
entire
back
second
Toriano
half.
Sweet.
I think he had 5 carries for something like 90 yards. I mean,
good
really,
to see him
really,
back.
His brother.
Both QBs.
Both. They went into a third QB late in the game. I mean, they unloaded the bench.
Wow.
I mean, you saw the 20-something points Colony scored. That was really against their second or third string during a running clock in the fourth quarter.
12 points.
12 was it 12 points?
Yeah.
Well, they scored them, late in the game when everybody was gone. But
okay.
I mean, Bishop Amat did what they're supposed to do to a team like Colony. I mean, they jumped out to a really quick, big lead. I think it was 40-something to nothing at one point 45-0 before they finally scored.
Right. Now next week is Chino Hills, and Chino Hills is not one of those teams that has any.
It's not the same team that gave them trouble.
Tied 2 years ago, and they won big last year. Chino Hills,
and I don't think that bodes well for Chino Hills
big
this year.
Spot.
Going back to Kiefer, I think they're going to really want to. I think they're going to really want to just beat this team and beat them bad next week.
Right.
Well, And and the good thing is, Toriano Sweet, it looks like he is back. And that was a guy that he does need to be on this team. You and I have talked about it the rest of the year. If this team has aspirations to, you mentioned the St. John Boscos and you mentioned those teams. You're not going to beat those teams without a senior running back who's a D1 talent, who has the chance to play on Saturdays.
Yeah, and he opens it up.
You're just absolutely
opens it up for Sidney and Vaughns, and good luck covering those guys when the running games.
Yeah, and that's another thing. You still got to get Sidney healthy, but boy, Vaughns, he was spectacular tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, again, 3 touchdowns, a big kickoff run back. I don't know what his yards were, but again, I mean, I guess all of the first half, all of their yards were Damien Garcia and Tyler Vaughns. I mean, those two combined for just about everything.
Right.
He's having the senior season living up to all expectations.
Right. Okay, so Bishop Amat, they go to 2-1 now.
Not a lot to say. You know they were going to win big.
Yeah. And now we can talk about Montebello, 3-0. They beat Arroyo tonight. Was a pretty good game for a while. But Montebello's 3-0. That Oilers train keeps rolling, Stevie.
Yeah, and
Pete Gonzalez, baby.
It should roll again next week. They play Azusa, which I think
El Monte got its first win because they beat Azusa
they close out league at Paraclete, which is kind of that looks like a big division type game.
Arroyo's lost to who? San Marino
and Montebello.
And Montebello. I mean, Montebello. To hang tough with them after what you've seen Montebello do, I think is a good result for Arroyo.
I mean, I imagine
the San Marino game. I know that got away from them, right?
Right. They've actually played San Marino better than anyone has this year so far.
But
what's that worth?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's Sierra Vista, and who did they follow it up with tonight? Sure.
It's a decent team. Anyways, Glendora, they go to 2-0. They beat San Gorgonio, a team that beat them last year. Glendora's defense comes up big tonight. They win 21-7. Los Altos beats Wilson for the wheel in a blowout. Los Altos and Glendora next week.
Wheel bad, didn't they?
Yeah, they beat them wheel bad. And now you have Los Altos and Glendora both undefeated, and they're playing next week at Citrus College.
Yeah, that's kind of the game of the week, I think.
I should be there.
I think you are going to be there.
I would hope so.
I've already penciled you down for that game. I hope they run it a little bit more than you saw tonight.
We don't care who wins. Just finish by 9:30.
Yeah.
No, that's going to be really a good one for a lot of people in the Valley to get out and see Tyler Nevins and Fink.
And they need a game like this, Los Altos. They haven't played anybody yet. They're 3-0 and they haven't played anybody.
Right.
Glendora, big 21-7 victory for them tonight. I mean, San Gorgonio. I think both of you and I both picked San Gorgonio. That's
because they won last year.
Yeah, that's a team that's had some success. They started. I think they were undefeated. They won their first 2 games.
Right.
That's a good win for Glendora and their defense. I mean, their defense was spectacular tonight. They won that game. They had 2 safeties, an interception return, and a field goal, and then a touchdown.
Yeah.
I don't know what Matt Fink's numbers were. Through 2 weeks though, that offense hasn't put up a lot of points.
Right.
It's their offense. I mean, I haven't seen him yet, but I imagine it's just their offense. He's not a guy that you're going to ask to throw 30 times a game. I'm sure in other offenses, Matt Fink could throw for 300 or 400 yards.
Right.
But over there, they'll use him as needed, however they're going to use him. But they're not scoring a lot of points, is my point. They're not. It's not an offense that's lighting people up right now.
We'll see next week. That should be a good game. Is there anything else you guys wanted to get to before we get to biggest surprise, biggest disappointment?
No, although I think the Covina loss to Claremont on Thursday night was a pretty good showing by Covina, because I thought Claremont, if you look at their first two games, what Claremont had done to teams, I thought Covina was going to get blown out there.
Right.
And they came back and really had a chance to win that, if not for coughing it up.
And don't forget that tomorrow night,
field goal as time expired to beat them.
Tomorrow night, the highlight of the night is not the Mayweather fight. It's not Stevie in Vegas on a Mayweather fight night, but there to watch UCLA instead. It's not even that.
What's Covina?
It's West Covina and South Hills playing for Kings of Cameron title.
I happen to have some nieces that go to South Hills and a lot of friends in that area because you grew up in that area. All week, I guess the rallies and the emotions, it is really at an all-time high. Last night at 9 o'clock, I guess at West Covina at least, the school was packed. They were packed for a rally. getting ready for West Covina tonight. The volleyball match, they call it the Queens of Cameron.
Ooh.
It was packed there tonight for that match. They played.
I think West Covina
and I think
won.
Everybody's getting ready. I mean, they're expecting a sellout crowd there tomorrow.
Yeah. I think West Covina won that volleyball match because our buddy, Coach Natalia Gonzalez, the coach at South Hills, she put out a tweet, about a half hour ago. Boy, it wasn't really nice. I can't even repeat it. So she wasn't too happy. So that means that means that West Covina beat South Hills. So maybe that's a good sign for the football team. But okay, let's get into football. Biggest surprise, biggest disappointment. Which one of you guys want to start here?
My biggest surprise, I'll stick in the Whittier area just because they got off to such a great start, and I wasn't sure they could win this game tonight. Is Sonora. They're 3-0 now. They beat Mayfair very impressively, 43-14.
You think they're going to be able to hang with La Habra?
I'm not sure they can beat La Habra, but they've been kind of the bottom part of the Freeway League the last few years, and this is a team I think they're going to be able to compete for a playoff spot, and they might be able to. They have a pretty good running back. That's kind of their team, and I think they might be able to be competitive against La Habra, or at least, I see them as having a shot for the playoffs, which is big for that program.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
Yeah.
Okay. Biggest disappointment, Stevie?
Biggest, I'm going to go to Thursday.
Oh, all right. Wow.
On,
look at this guy. Curveballs.
On Lucerna.
They lost 17-14.
They lost 17-14, but the way they had played the week before against Lakewood, and I know Maricosa has a pretty good program, but I just thought they would win that game, and I'm just a little bit disappointed that they weren't able to pull it out. And I guess they didn't play well offensively. They didn't score an offensive touchdown.
All right.
So
fair enough. Freddie, your biggest surprise, biggest disappointment?
I'll answer my biggest surprises by saying, and I tweeted this earlier, that the biggest surprises of the year through 3 weeks to me are Bonita and Diamond Bar. I think the way they're playing, both those teams being 3-0 right now, I don't think any of us expected them to both be here at this point. And the way Bonita's doing it too, especially, just blowing out anyone. No one's even been close, and they've played a pretty decent schedule. And then Diamond Bar, I predicted they would win because I just had a feeling about it. But for them to be 3-0, first 2 weeks were blowouts, then to beat a team like San Dimas that blew them out last year, I think those two teams and where they're at right now is my biggest surprise.
What's your biggest disappointment?
Biggest disappointment.
You weren't expecting that part, Fred?
Yeah, yes.
I can help you.
Help me out.
Aram's picks. How about that? I picked Sage Hill tonight over Maranatha, 40-0 Maranatha. Pretty disappointing. Some of my picks tonight. I said that La Mirada would hang with not hang with them, but I thought maybe they could keep this game close, keep it interesting, whatever. I guess that is hanging with them.
It was close at one point. It was 7-7.
Yeah, great. And then I'm looking for scores, and the next thing I see is 35-7. So I said last week it's dangerous to fall in love with La Mirada, and there I did.
You gave me a second to think about it, and I think I touched on it earlier. I think Damien is my biggest disappointment.
Really?
Yeah.
Even with the injury?
I just expected them to, we're talking about through this point of the season, I just expected them to be better. I really did.
They're about the same.
Huh?
They're about the same.
They haven't taken that big step up yet.
It's mediocrity so far.
I just don't think there's anything to be really excited about Damien football right now.
Right. I guess my biggest surprise tonight is San Dimas being held to 7 points by Diamond Bar. I guess you could say maybe Diamond Bar's defense is my biggest surprise, or San Dimas's offense or lack thereof is my biggest surprise. But that would be mine. So
I think your biggest disappointment is that your game took 3 hours and it took you 4 minutes.
Yeah, that goes. Yeah. At least it got good at the end, and there was some drama, and for a second there it looked like Arcadia might pull this off, but John McKee, big pick, and
let me just tell you something,
Spicer
Aaron,
with the finishing
games in
touch.
The Pasadena Star and News side of town. I don't know if it's the officiating over there. Those games always last long. They always.
It wasn't great officiating
and you're
tonight.
at Pasadena. I don't care. You're at St. Francis. Those games, they just last long.
It wasn't great officiating tonight. I could say that.
Well, the game I always dread in the Pasadena area, because I've covered it a few times, is St. Francis Cathedral.
Yeah.
That's a
I'll tell you one team. Okay, we're going to end it really quick. Pasadena High School.
Yeah.
Big win for them tonight.
They beat Artesia.
Yeah.
Artesia is no great shakes, Fred. But Tyreek Adams had a big.
Trying to get excited about Pasadena.
Our boy Vincent Nguyen, our new guy out there stringing games for us, Vinu, man. He tweeted a good video, and then later tonight he was tweeting that he was repping the Star News brand well. I was like, wow, Vinu, really kind of feeling it, huh?
I like people like that are all over social media sending highlights right after they happen via video on their cell phones.
Yeah.
That's what we want here at the XGBN.
Yeah, well, a lot of people got to meet Vincent last year and so did I. That's how we met, because he seemed to be at literally every big game last year, not just football, but I don't remember in football season, but basketball, baseball, softball season, all that stuff.
Yeah.
He was always around covering the biggest games, and now he's around with us, so we're glad to have him. Anyways, so week what was this, 2?
Week 2 is in the books.
Week 2, the third week of the season.
For Pioneer, they won tonight, so they're 3-0.
That Del Rio League, that's going to be the subject of a notebook next week, because Whittier also, big win again tonight. Whittier's rolling right now.
But I think you're absolutely right, Aaron. You got the game of the week next week.
That should be fun.
It's going to be a good one. Los
should be
Altos,
good for
Glendora. I was at that game last year.
Evans, Matt Fink.
I was at the game last year when it was at Los Altos, and Matt Fink just absolutely did whatever he wanted against them.
Right. Well, we'll see what happens next week. Anyways, big football weekend, Mayweather fight. Should be a very interesting weekend. Get on in the start of the NFL season.
UCLA Bruins, baby. Josh Rosen.
Start of the NFL season coming up.
Rams.
Last thought here as we look at the last 10 minutes of September 11th, the last 10 minutes remaining of the day. What a great feeling it was to be out at a high school game tonight, a packed high school game. Yeah, there were tributes before the game. I saw on Twitter that KJ Costello, the stud QB at Santa Margarita, they had, instead of their decal on their helmet, an American flag swipe on there. And just being out there, tonight, you got, a taste of, some of the freedoms that we enjoy and some of the great things, about this country. And if people were feeling down, understandably today, they had a great reason, to really enjoy some Americana tonight, and got out to a game and enjoyed just one of the many great things about our country. So hopefully that, high school football served, to help a lot of people tonight get through the latter parts of a very, difficult day. And now hopefully we have a very good weekend, everybody, and we'll be back early next week with 2-minute drills. And get on the blogs. Let us know what you thought about week 2. Thank you for watching.
Very good. You remind me more and more of Chris Berman's son every time you speak, especially when you're wrapping up like that.
Who's Chris Berman's son?
Chris Berman has a son?
No, I'm just saying if he had a son.
Stupid.